pretty scenery, ain't it? This here's Injun country, and it's tough country, where living at best is real hard. So you can imagine just how tough it was for little Surefoot here. Because since he lost his father this past year, he's had to be the man of the family. And because their flock brought him in so little money, Surefoot's mother tried to sell blankets, baskets, and beadwork by the highway. But these modern gas buggies go by too fast nowadays. Nobody's got time to stop anymore. She did the prettiest work any engine around, but she couldn't get nobody to look at it. To add to Surefoot's worries, he never knew when a mountain lion might move in on his herd. Not that he'd be afeard of no lion, mind you, but he knew he was pretty little to wrestle with one. Those sheep wouldn't have strayed if he'd had a dog, like the other herders. Their dogs kept the sheep rounded up and away from harm. There ain't nothing for a sheepdog to run 100 miles in a day, keeping the sheep together. Dog knows in this country that if a sheep strays from the flock, he's sure to wind up as a snack for a waiting mountain lion. One day, when his mother was sitting under the squaw cooler, Surefoot came in. He'd found himself a sheepdog at last, but his mother said he couldn't keep him. They already had enough mouths to feed. Now, Surefoot just had to find the pup another home. Well, if he had to give up the pup, at least he knew who he'd give it to. He'd give it to his friend Marvin Glenn, the best mountain lion hunter in all Arizona. At first, Glenn said, "Nah, I don't need no more dogs." But I guess a closer look at little Surefoot told him how things was, because he soon found himself saying, "Sure, pup looks like the makings of a great lion dog." Glenn told the kid he'd give the pup a good home, and maybe he could return the favor and do something for him someday. Sometimes, when you're only 5, it's hard to remember that you're supposed to be a man. And at this point, you wouldn't think things could have got any worse. But they did. A lion did move into Surefoot's herd. And little Surefoot wasn't scared. But there wasn't too much he could do against that lion's boldness, except round up the rest of the sheep as quick as he could. As soon as he got them all in the safety of the corral, he'd make trouble for that lion. He'd send word to his friend, the lion hunter, and then Mr. Lion, watch out. After Marvin Glenn got little Surefoot's message, it didn't take him long to get going. Being a rancher himself, he knew the damage these desert killers did to livestock every year. And he knew Surefoot's family couldn't afford to lose no more sheep. Marvin's son Warren was going too, because 2 can handle an ornery lion a lot better than 1. The Glens had spent years selecting and perfecting their hound pack. Until now, they had dogs who lived for nothing else in the world but the scent of a mountain lion. In lion hunting, you don't sit in a blind and wait for him to fly over. You take out after him. Sometimes you wish you could fly. Well, after they reached the top of the mesa, Marvin and a couple of the hounds had a war party and laid some plans. He and his dogs had hunted together so much that man and hound seemed to know what each other was thinking. Just look at that. Miles and miles of rocks. Just the right color to camouflage a lion. No wonder this neck of the woods is full of killers. And no wonder there are so few good lion hunters. Now, after a good look around, Marvin started back down the canyon to meet Warren with the horses. By nighttime, he had that lion pretty well figured out. He's doubled back on his tracks to fool the hounds, he told Warren. But I don't think he's going to fool us. He's probably in sight of this fire right now. First thing next morning, they found a lot of fresh scent not too far off. Marvin couldn't figure out why the lion had stayed around, instead of putting distance between himself and the hounds. It wasn't long before the mystery was cleared up. The lion had found a strayed steer and couldn't resist gorging himself on a nice steak dinner. But then, greed has been the undoing of many an animal. And human. That steer meat meant nothing to them hounds. All they cared about was the lion scent. The hounds knew they was closing in. The lion made plans to take cover. It's hard to run far on a full stomach. The best he could do was a nearby tree. That lion made a swell target up in that sparse branch tree. But just as he was going to pull the trigger, Marvin Glenn got hit by an idea. Well, whatever it is the hounds were yelping, let's get him out of this tree. Shooting would have been the easy way. Roping him means trouble. Glenn sure must have been set on his plan, whatever it was, to stick his neck out this way. It was going to take both of them to get this fella down off his perch. Now, the lion knew the rope would never go around his neck as long as he could catch it in his mouth first. Since the lion had his own bag of tricks, Marvin had to move in closer to the danger zone. A lion at bay is never a Sunday school picnic. Treeing him was one thing, getting him down another. Marvin made a good shot and collared the varmint. But even with a rope around his neck, the lion was going to make him work to pull him down. Warren had to throw a safety rope. He had to work fast or the lion was going to chew that rope in two. Warren's hands were getting numb. Marvin got a hind leg rope ready for the next step. The lion had already left his mark on Marvin's jaw. The worst was over now. It was just a question of doing a firm job on the time, including a stick between them teeth to keep them from ripping man and horse apart. So they saddled old Paint with a live, scrapping mountain lion. But he'd been hunting with Marvin so long that wearing a lion draped over his back was all in the day's work. Marvin's cheering section was still going. Well, sir, the next Sunday you should have seen how them cars stopped at Mama Surefoot's blanket, basket, and beadwork bazaar. No wonder the little Injun was grinning. The prettiest sight on earth was them tourists with their Eastern folding money hopping out of their cars to see little Surefoot's ferocious attraction, courtesy of his friend Marvin Glenn. And once they stopped to see the wild lion, Surefoot's mama didn't have any trouble at all selling things to him. The blankets and baskets and beadwork was going as fast as water on this here desert. So it just goes to show that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Or maybe sometimes it's a whole lot smarter to leave the skin on. Ain't that right, Surefoot? Huh?